Movember Nuke.
Hello my dear artist and welcome for the number 25 on Movember Nuke. And today we are talking about sharpness. We just try to do a reformat and transform on this plate, and I will use this lesson to talk about denoise and some method you have to do to avoid some artifact. So, at the first point, every time you have to do something on a plate that's really reasonable to do reduce noise. There's a lot of plugin for that. There's a denoise inside directly a Nuke, but the very best one is a reduce noise from neat videos. That's very nice and perfect note for that. When you create a degrain or denoise, it's really better to change the color space of your plate. But I will show you something. A lot of people use the link to log to convert RGB linear to a Cineon or logarithmic color space. Why? Because that avoids the creation of value under 0 and over 1. And the link to log creates this kind of color space. But I want to notice something. I will show you the difference between the link to log and the log to link that invert the color space, and the difference through the original plate. This is the difference between this operation and the original plate, and maybe you not notice something, and that's normal. I will increase the exposure and the gamma. As you see, there is difference. Very little. But there is one. And this one is the node from the open color space. That's a perfect and the best tools to play with the color space. There is the same tools called color space, and it's from the original version of Nuke. And if you compare with this kind of operation, we have the same difference. And I will show you now my method. In my method, I prefer to play with grade. If I show you on a grade, I create two grades linked by expression. So that means that the values are identical. But I just use the reverse to just invert the operation from my grade in to the grade out. So as you see. And now I will show you the difference between the out of operation and the original plate. And you notice there is difference too, but very less. So this is the difference between original plate and open color. This is the difference with color space and original plate. And this is the difference with the system of grade in and grade out. So that will be your choice. It's clear that the fastest one is to use directly a convert link to log from open color IO. But I wanted to show you this. So now we have a degrain version of my plate, and I will play with the transform. So I will just double the scale, and I will do reformat. So as you see, we lose a part of resolution, and that's normal because we destroy a part, and we have to do an interpretation of the element. So on the transform, there is different kind of filter. The very basic one is a cubic. It is a right balance between quality and efficiency. But if you want to play a bit, you will see that the impulse is no interpretation of the pixel. It is a brute force comparison. So as you see, there's not a lot of difference. And in our job, we use more often the lang source 4 on the lang source 6. That's a pretty interesting system that increases the contrast between the height value, but that's times that create artifact because on the high contrast you will have some negative value, especially where you near a very bright element and a very dark element just side by side. And to avoid this, maybe you remember the trick to the denoise, and you'll be able to do the same trick with a transform. So my transform will be with a lang source 6 And with my log to lean, link to log to lean, I will be able to avoid a lot of artifacts in the picture. And this technique, if I want to have more definition on my picture, I can use a Sharpen. But unfortunately, the Sharpen is like the lenses. You will have on some zone the artifact. So if I click there, you will see there is negative value. Ah, God, no, not negative value. So on the Sharpen, you have to do the same. You're able to just change the color space and apply the Sharpen in this color space. So now I will show you the difference. As you see, there is big difference in the contrast, but now this window is not in negative value. But how the Sharpen work? That's pretty simple. It's just a difference on the original plate and a softer one. There's different way to do this. For example, you can use a blur, you can use a median, and it is the same trick that use the Laplacian. The Laplacian, I will show you, is this kind of trick. It is a minus plus with a plate and a softer one, and this information will be applied in a plus operation with a merge. So I show you the difference. Do you see the difference? There is not a lot of difference because it is the same system. And just to be more accurate in my system, I will just replace the Laplacian by a blur. If I compare a blur minus my original plate, so this minus this, as you see, there is not a lot of difference. That's normal, that's the same system. This is the Laplacian. So maybe we are able to use not a blur to create a softer version of the plate. Maybe you can use the median, and the median is heavier, of course, but it will give you more accuracy. So if I compare now my median method with, for example, the Laplacian, as you see, there is different, and that's pretty interesting. The median give us more detail. Oh, come on. I'm going too fast for the system. So as you see, that's pretty nice. But now I will show you a secret. There is another way to have a softer version of the original plate and something more accurate. It is to create a very hard degrain of your plate. This is a very hard degrain. If I compare this degrain to the original one, you will see we lose a lot of detail, but only the softer detail, not the hard detail. And with this technique and the famous minus plus we used as a median or blur, you will keep a lot of information. So if I do a minus between my plate and my degrain plate and my very strong degrain plate, you see you will keep a lot of information. I show you now the difference. And as you see, especially comparing this zone, there's a lot of difference, and we keep very nice detail without any exaggeration. So this is the blur, the median, this is a degrain. So on the degrain, that's pretty nice because we don't have this kind of strong sharpness with a very high contrast. We just keep information nicely. There is not artifact. So if I compare between my first version, like this, you see the difference. That's really cleaner. But now I will show you a last trick. On my last trick, I will add not a minus plus, but I will use a divide and multiply. So my strong denoise, my normal denoised. I will use a divide and a multiply. Maybe you don't notice any difference, and that's normal because in the operation the philosophy is the same. But I will add a grade between the divide and the multiply. I will don't touch the gain. I will not touch the gain or the lift. I will just play with the gamma. And look the magic. If I play with gamma, I will be able to change the impact of my sharpness on my plate. And as you see, you will be able to give more information. You have to use it with care, but that's pretty nice to just keep back some information with this technique. So that's all, folks. I hope you enjoy this lesson, and don't forget, this is for the Movember. So if you want to give me donation on my webpage, that would be really appreciated. So thank you at all, and see you soon for the next lesson.